right, look at that. We are live on Facebook and we have got this thing recording. So welcome to the Webinar Talk Show. My name is Tom Singer.
And I'm Liz Green. And as you know, we're here every Monday and Wednesday talking to really smart people about what's going on in our world. And one of the industries that's been really hit pretty hard with this whole COVID-19 thing is the meetings industry. We're all hoping that we get to meet in person, in a ballroom, go to the cocktail party, all of those sort of things. We're hoping that that's coming back, but that may be a little while for us, and we're coming back slowly, and it may look a little different. That's why we have brought on somebody who is really been very open with what's going on in her business and the meetings industry. Tom, tell us about the person we have today.
So today, I'm really honored. We have a good friend of mine. She has one of the most successful businesses here in Austin, Texas, in the meetings world. She has a meeting planning, sort of a specialized boutique meeting planning company who helps organizations, both associations and companies, plan amazing events, whether they're coming to Austin or they're holding these events anywhere in the world. And she has been doing this for 17 and a half years. And year over year, her business has grown. They just continue to do more amazing things. And then COVID came along and the meetings business sort of shut down. And what I found so amazing is that our guest today was really forthcoming, both in her social media and also in the actual media. She has allowed the Austin Business Journal to follow her around through the trials and tribulations that have gone on, trying to keep her business afloat and keep her hand on the pace of what's going on with the meetings business. So Cindy Lowe from Red Velvet Events, welcome to the Webinar Talk Show.
Woo!
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good
Cindy,
morning.
thank you so much for agreeing to come on. Because like I said, I think from the outside looking in, you were having your best year ever as we started 2020. Is that right?
That is very, very true. In fact, we were looking at February like, wow, this is really exciting. We're going to hit some new revenue goals. We're going to grow. We're going to hire. And then things started falling apart.
So let's go back to the beginning. You had a technology background. You were not a meeting planner. You decided to start this business. How did this industry come about for you?
So one positive note for those that are out there, maybe trying to figure out what their next chapter is. I started Red Velvet actually post 9/11. So I was in a technology space, but I was not a meeting planner for them. I was a project manager, which means you implement solutions after you sell it. So I use those skills to, transfer over here. But when that industry took a hit too, post 9/11, it gave me a chance to think about what is it that I really love and generally enjoy doing. And every one of my friends and close family members all pointed to, you should really do events and meetings for a living. And I was like, but I don't even know what that means, because I had always done it for free for nonprofits. And I knew I didn't want to go in the hotel side, because my head space wasn't in the venue side. My headspace was in the logistics, the creative, the implementation. And then that's how I landed here. The fun story is, I always tell people it was a happy accident, because if it wasn't for those companies that rejected me when I was initially interviewing, probably Red Velvet Events would not exist.
Wow. So you went around and talked to meeting planners and said, can I come work for you? And
Yes.
they said, sorry, there's no room at the inn.
Yes, because they were affected too post 9/11. Meetings and events had canceled momentarily, and they were like, we don't have any job openings. And especially for someone that doesn't have any formal work experience, they were like, you're too risky. So I had even offered to work for free for a few companies, but they were like, no one works for free in this business. Now I know why they said that, because it is a hard industry, but they should have taken a chance on me.
I was going to say, do any of those competitors look around and say, oh, wow, we never should have let her unleash Red Velvet?
One of them came back, I want to say 6 or 7 years later, and says, I'm going to be honest with you, Cindy. We had all taken bets and we didn't think you were going to last. And you've really proven us wrong.
So you have grown this business over the last 17 years. Tell us some of the successes and what it's been like to really grow a meetings business that went beyond just Cindy to, I think, like 26 employees doing events all over the world.
Yeah, so it started out honestly, first was just figuring out the information and the terminology because I didn't know the industry. I only knew from an attendee perspective. So asking me what a BEO was or a head count or a guaranteed, I didn't really know those in the back of my head. So I would have said I spent probably the first 2 years just getting to know the industry altogether. And then it fast tracked into growing and scaling because I actually had a baby. And my husband, who has always been a good mentor and besides a good partner, was like, you cannot continue to do this business by yourself if you're going to take on bigger events. It's okay if you're going to do it smaller, but if you're going to take on bigger events, you're going to need help. And that is actually kind of what pushed me into growing the company. And then as we were growing, we went through a phase and a time again where I had to ask myself, what is it that I enjoyed most about the business? Was it growing it? Or was it working on the problems? And when I realized I enjoyed scaling the company, I switched my mindset to focus on that. So we were always focused on hiring the right kind of employees, and then also seeking the right kind of clients to grow with. And then Austin grew as well as a meetings hotspot, and that helped us as well. So we were just riding. I joke with people all the time is that as Austin was growing up in popularity of besides South by Southwest, but just as a meeting and events hub, we were benefiting from that as well over the years. And so that's how we landed to now, which is crazy.
Well, and stalking you a little bit on your website in preparation, in full disclosure, there was a little bit of stalking. Your business seems a little bit different from some of the meeting planning agencies that I've worked with in the past, where the focus is more on what happens in the ballroom. You really are pushing that those walls back a bit.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what makes Red Velvet unique.
So I have to actually give credit to my old boss, because I think when he hired me for one of my very first early on events, so the company I was with prior, that I was, again, not a meeting planner for them. I was a project manager. And he had heard that I had decided to do events, and someone said, we should probably use Cindy and her new company, since she left this company, to help us with this event. But he doesn't like to do events normally, like as in like don't follow what everyone else is doing. Do what actually makes sense for your brand and your company culture, and also do what makes the most sense from a marketing, what we call guerrilla marketing effort. And so a lot of that kind of rang true through me, and it got me excited, because I always would look at the problem and then figure out what is it that we can realistically do within the time frame, the budget, and safe for, of course, all the attendees, because no one wants to attend an event that's going to put them in danger. And hence why hence where we are right now with the virus, right?
Right.
So that's really our secret sauce, is the fact that I'm always pushing our team to say, let's not do the norm. Let's ask ourselves, what's one extra thing we could do to make the event really stand out, so that when people attend it, they go, wow, I wish I had thought of that. And so that is what I would call our secret sauce. And then going back to the employee side, a lot of it has to do with, again, who you hire, because you've got to have a certain mindset and a mentality to really think that way. Because if you just want to go off the checklist of, do I have the ballroom? Do I have the room set up? Do I have the food and beverage? You're going to limit yourself from that thinking. So a lot of times I ask our team to please go into an open room, or maybe take a walk around our offices or something, and think about, what would you do that is totally wild, but yet still, again, safe for the attendees and for the client.
Well, I think that safety part is going to become more and more important as we move back to in-person and probably more hybrid events. Are there things that you think are going to be different as we look into that future?
So, I wrote a blog post, gosh, I want to say it was only week 4 in to the COVID pandemic. And of course, I didn't want this pandemic to still be happening right now. I mean, we all know that we wanted it to end as quickly as we could. Now, no one has a crystal ball on how long this is going to last, like when is it comfortable? But I know that human nature, we like meeting in person. We like interaction. We need that. So the questions I posed to myself was, what is it that we need to change of our behavior so that we can feel safe again? So I gave an example of like a hotel. So if I'm about to check into a hotel hotel bedroom, guest room, I would want to know when's the last time they changed out those bed sheets? When's the last time they, they wiped down those counters? So I think there will definitely be some changes everywhere we look, whether it be restaurants. I mean, if you've been to a restaurant in Texas, they've now changed to disposable menus. So it's a one-pager disposable because the idea is if it's a regular menu and laminated, you can transfer the virus from there. So making things as contact-free as possible, making sure that you are applying right now the social distance because we don't have a vaccine, making sure that you are implementing wearing a mask, because if you are talking, that is an easy way. Just like they said, like if you're singing in a choir, you can spread the droplets that way. And people, again, want to talk. I have actually seen some very creative face masks, by the way, some that not only match the face and some that have the LED. So they are actually reading what you're saying and then they're typing it out as fast. So kind of like, think of like a Siri or Alexa that is like typing it out as fast as you can and putting it out on the LED screen. And I was like, that is so creative. Now, if right now it's not at a price point where everyone can have one, but that's where I do think we're moving towards, because I don't think we're going to be rid of face masks. If we want to meet again sooner, I don't think we're going to be rid of face masks as soon as, as anytime soon. So I would tell people, get comfortable knowing how to network that way. And I do think the handshake, unfortunately, is going to be gone for a while. Unless you openly are okay, like we change the behavior and we go, I'm going to put on my hand sanitizer, then shake your hand, then we're good. But
and then we're going to hand sanitize again.
And then, but it's very awkward right now. People don't like that. So I think we're just going to have to adjust, just like we adjusted post 9/11, just like we adjusted, other crisis moments have shown us that as a society, we will adjust to what makes it work. But we also have to understand that there's definitely a level of discomfort when people hear and read the news and, and see what's happening. And so my job, again, is to educate our clients on what is it that we can do to kind of minimize that, because it is awkward right now. We're in that strange, like what I call teenage phase. Like, so can we do this? Can we not?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So Cindy, I know because we're friends and I've been following everything that you've done. I know that you have been talking to a lot of people in the meetings business and the related industries that surround everything. So what is the vibe out there? What do you think? How do you think people are feeling?
So this is interesting. On the meeting side, as in like planners like us, suppliers, unfortunately, it's actually been very heated right now, because the question has come up is it ethical for us to be pushing for live events when there's no vaccine? However, keep in mind, if we don't have events, we could literally crush our entire industry for maybe, 2 to 3 years easily, because I don't think a vaccine is going to be out any sooner than a year from now. I mean, and even that, they're going to have to test it and test it and test it. So if that's the take for those that are saying, hey, we can't rush it, that's the problem, is that we have to understand that it's going to crush a lot of the small businesses, because our industry as a whole is made up a bunch of small businesses. It's $1 billion industry, but we are actually one of the few industries that's made up of a bunch of mom and pop shops versus big companies.
Yeah, because the meetings business, when you look at the impact to the GDP, at least within the United States, is as large, if not larger, than the automobile industry.
Yep.
And yet, when you look at financial reports of what's going on in the country, they always report like the auto industry and these things.
Correct.
But they never talk about the meetings business because it is so fragmented.
Yep.
Recently, you said something that I thought was super interesting, and that was you were appealing to large companies. And reminding them that their meetings aren't just, hey, employees, you're not going to we're not having meetings. You're impacting the small planner. You're impacting the speaker. You're impacting the limo company. So can you talk to that a little bit more?
So when we were analyzing our numbers, what Tom is referring to is we've been literally looking at our numbers every day, every week, every time we either lose a piece of business that decided not to come back to do their live event, or maybe we even have a potential coming in. And I was curious, I was like, how many jobs does this save each time I sign a big contract? If I can get, if we retain this client. And I realized that on average for those big companies, and I'm talking about the Fortune 500 clients that have meetings that truly are, again, sales initiative, marketing driven, or employee internal meetings. Because all three of those types of events have a reason. They have a business foundation behind it.
Right.
Anytime we sign a contract with them, a big contract, it actually saves 5 employees on our team. So when they decide to cancel versus postpone, it devastates us, because then I got to find either 5 little events to make up for that, or I got to find another big one to make up for that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to let them go or put them on part-time. And that's the tough part, is I don't think they realize how fast it trickles down to us. Like it helps us so much to keep our team. And not only that, we use it to hire other small businesses, because we know we're just the funnel, like we're the starting point. And we feed other small businesses, like Tom was saying, speakers, caterers, desserts, gift givers. So it's like, I realized, man, even though we are a small business, I funneled out more than $10 million of business last year. So think about it. As a small business owner here, if I'm funneling that much out and now this year I'm not, I can't imagine how many small businesses have been affected.
Yeah. And that's something that I noticed when I saw you talking about this. I thought, yes, when a big company signs with you, it saves the job of 5 of your employees. But I thought, gosh, I wonder how many. I didn't know that in the course of a year, you use $10 million worth of vendors. But if you think about that, sometimes you're helping contract the speakers, the limo drivers, the florists, the people who print signs. The amount of people who are affected by that one meeting, it's 5 within your company for that year or whatever length of time. But then it's probably another, I was trying to run the numbers in my head, like 30 people
easily,
jobs,
I'm sure.
Not just for the 3 days of that event, but for months and months, if not the year, are covered by the company that had that event.
Yeah. And that's the tough part, is that, and I get it why their CFO is telling them to stop, but they don't realize how much it hurts all of us. And small businesses, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, so I'll have to look that up later and share, but they make up a good portion of US, businesses. And I'm worried, honestly, after we come out of this global pandemic, is how many will really survive this, because we've been fortunate enough to have a backup of savings. And we did still have a few clients that were saying, you know what, let's figure out together, how can we move this to virtual or hybrid and keep it. But we definitely lost a good chunk of business that was originally set on the forecast, and they are no longer there now as of this month.
Well, and Tom was telling me that you've also done some creative pivoting in terms of keeping cash flow coming. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing.
So when we first entered COVID, we were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Because no one was calling for any more live events at all, like no emails, no calls. And so quickly I assessed the team, and I was like, okay, you are good at graphics design, you are good at consulting, you are good at copywriting. And we pivoted our entire team. We basically played into each team member's strengths. And out of that, we identified some areas that we wanted to focus on. So we knew people were losing their jobs. So we decided, what can we do to help those that are looking? So we even have a career section where not only do we have a 15-minute free pep talk, but we also have a chance to help you review your resume, redesign it, coach you to do peer-to-peer interviews, things like that. Then we even are selling t-shirts, or allowing our art directors to use their talent to basically design t-shirts to hopefully, help us funnel people to our website and buy a t-shirt, because who doesn't want to commemorate this COVID-19? We have one, okay? That is literally bananas. And it's just like a graphic design of bananas that says 2020. That's all it is. And so
that's great.
My favorite was one that your husband modeled on Facebook, and it said, I'm an introvert. I'm fine.
I'm thriving. Yes.
I'm thriving.
Yes. So those are the things, is that we told our directors, use your creativity. What do you feel like right now? And these were the ones that come out, and we actually push out new t-shirts every few weeks, because we have another one that actually has done very well because of what's going on with the civil unrest, and it's Together We Shine. And we are actually even taking those profits and paying it forward to a nonprofit. So we're trying to do our part, because I would love to support all these nonprofit causes, but we honestly have no cash. So I figured, at least from those sales, we can pay it forward.
So Cindy, you have been really transparent with everybody, I mean, and including in the press, about how hard your business has been hit and how not easy it has been to apply for the PPP loan and, having to deal with, how do I keep my employees? What do I do if I have to make cuts?
Yeah.
What are some of the real hardships that you've faced over the past, gosh, it's over three and a half months now.
Yeah, this is week 14. So the fact that I keep track of it, it just,
right.
So I would say first, it has been hard for our team too. And even though I know it's very hard on me, I know it's my role and my job, if that makes sense. So I've been used to it since I've been doing this for 17 and a half years, is that the buck does stop with me. And so that I've gotten so used to that weight on me that part, it didn't faze me. But what I underestimated the last 2 weeks, and it came to realization, was how much my transparency, though my team welcomed it, it affected them. So meaning them knowing that there's this possibility, if we can't make this gap, that their jobs were on the line, and they did not, that they didn't want, that they weren't already trying, they were, but again, it's because these companies have been told, sit on the budget, don't move, don't talk yet, it's not time, and that's the hard part, is that when business is not as usual and they're doing everything they can, they're feeling very helpless. And so that part weighed on me when I realized, because we did what we call a pulse survey, and it's an anonymous survey to the employees to kind of understand where their mental and heart is, and just everything. And it dawned on me last week that, wow, they are really taking it very hard, because they can see the fact that our numbers aren't growing as fast as it used to.
Right. And
they're wondering, well, how does this affect me? We are trying very hard to close that gap, but we can't do it without the help of big companies. I mean, I am so grateful for all the small businesses that have actually reached out to hire us, not only to redo their website, help them with marketing, help them with the gift boxes. We've done so many random things that normally we would not have done pre-COVID, and that has helped. But unfortunately, it's not enough to, like Tom alluded to, we had 26 on payroll, and that's a lot of people. And keep in mind, I took myself off payroll April 29th, I think it was, and I'm not going to be paying myself for the rest of the year. So difficult decisions like that, again, I am okay with it, because I know my role, but I know not everyone is in the same situation as me. And so it's hard, because I'm trying to also keep them motivated, because it is going to take us as a team to get through this to the end,
One of the things that I talk about is stress and uncertainty. And one of the insights from all of the interviews that I've done with leaders was that a predictable leader is the biggest gift that you can give your employees. It seems like your employees have been given an amazing gift in your predictability and your
I hope so. Sometimes they're like, Cindy came up with this idea, we're going to sell t-shirts. Like, what? I mean, because if you ask, what's interesting is that additional services website came about within 2 weeks. Like, we pushed it out that fast, and we put together everything that fast, because what happened was I realized, oh my gosh, things got quiet on the sales funnel. We need to sell something. And so they brainstormed, and they were like, hey, we can do these things. Like, and I was like, can we get a Shopify account up? Can we do this? I mean, like we hustled and we pushed it out, and we made that video in-house. I mean, again, these are things that normally we would have hired people to do, but because we were using our own team's strengths, we pulled it together and made it happen. And that part I am so grateful for, because I know where my strength is definitely in predicting of what we can and can't do in the future, and also sales, but the team has definitely rallied behind this pivot. I mean, it's hard, I get it. And I should mention too, the virtual event side, we had always pitched it, but no one ever really bought it, because they didn't want to spend the extra money. And our first one happened mid-April, but it was a small one. Then the early May, we had a big one. We have literally been learning as we're driving the car, as I said, or flying the plane, whatever the analogy is, of how to do virtual right. And I'm so proud of them, because every Monday we come together and we chat about what worked, what didn't work this past week's on the virtual event. And now that our state has reopened, we're now leaning into hybrid and trying to, again, make them safe, do what's right, make sure the attendees and the client feels comfortable, because we get it that there's so many unknowns, but everyone is trying to move forward with their lives, you know?
Well, and Tom and I would agree with you that people just didn't seem ready
Yeah, I mean,
for the virtual and hybrid. We've been doing this sort of thing for 6 years, and people were like, nah.
Well, they loved the idea of having the hybrid hosts talking to the at-home audience and engaging them more than just broadcasting the main stage. Yeah. They liked the idea, but what we found was nobody wanted to pay for it because they didn't value the at-home audience. Right. I think that's going to change going forward.
I think so too, because I will tell you that right now what we have seen is if you've always been a brand that maybe is just focused on just the people that came to your event, for the first time ever, there's two really positive things that COVID gave. One, you can not only stream your information to a much wider audience, but two, you really actually have real data now. So if I actually am on your virtual event, I can see how long you stayed with this exhibitor because of the metrics that are measuring behind the scenes. And before, unless I had RFID name badges or wristbands on your name tags, I would be guessing that you stayed with that exhibitor or that sponsor for that long. So that's why I tell people if it's done right and done well, it can actually benefit to help you scale as a company. But you have to be open-minded to that. Otherwise, you're going to limit yourself to thinking, it can be this boring and not conversational, put one way, street.
So Cindy, as we wrap this up, what is the glimmer of hope for the entire meetings industry that we're all part of?
People are so pent up and they are ready. I mean, I cannot tell you. So the number one question I get from meeting planners that are in-house, meaning they are either an association or they work for one of the big companies, they ask me, when's the first event you're doing? And when I tell them, they're always shocked. They're like, oh my gosh, I need to tell my executive that because that's not what our executive is communicating to up high. And they are ready. The challenge is that the bigger the company, obviously they don't want the negative press because if it's that controversial internally, can you imagine what the press might do? Mm-hmm. So I was actually on another message board where they were talking about the event. And because they didn't want anyone to share what they were doing in the meeting, they told the hotel staff to just leave them alone. Because the hotel staff did the job, social distance, everything, they moved all the tables together because they wanted to chat. These were salespeople. They did not want to be like in what they call timeout. And they were like, this is it. So again, the doors were closed. No one saw it, but I thought it was hilarious to see that because when the cleaning crew came back in to clean it, because they were cleaning 1.5 hours, they were like, oh my gosh, all the chairs are together. What happened? So people are ready. People are definitely ready.
and I'm sure that the company had an internal no photos rule, no social media of this meeting.
Exactly. And that's what you're going to see. And, but I will tell you, there are more people meeting out there than you probably are hearing right now because people are scared of what the perception is. And that makes me sad a little bit because obviously I want to promote our industry and I want to tell people, we are here to do business. This is not some, a fun game and all. It is really meetings mean business.
Yes. So. Meetings mean business. I love that.
Absolutely.
So Cindy, thank you so much for joining us here on the Webinar Talk Show. One of the reasons Eliz and I do this is we think that a webinar can be more than a talking head over PowerPoint. And we think great information like you've just shared can be shared in this conversational manner. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
This has been great. And if you are planning an event or a meeting coming up, whether that's hybrid or virtual or in person, Tom and I would love to talk to you about how we can serve to make sure that you're connecting with that virtual audience. You can find us at webinartalkshow.com. And of course, you could join us on Facebook at Webinar Talk Show. We're going to be back on Thursday with another wonderful guest talking about technology.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
This is the problem with COVID.
Yes, we'll be back on Wednesday with another wonderful guest, Terry Brock, talking about technology. We'll see you then. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Cindy.